People and communities have a lot of talent and ideas, but can't get financing, despite of the efforts to provide small business financing in communities. It's just not reaching them. Why is that so? Well, this episode is particularly important because we provide you with lots of resources or information that provides you with the answers. How do you access small business financing? This is the episode for you. And just so you know, these are some of the questions that we will contend with in this episode. We will look at the types of business financing or loan options that's available to you. We will look at what do lenders look out for when we talk about small business financing. We will look at why do lenders like to use personal credit score? And what of this revenue? Why do lenders like to look at revenues? What are the biggest hurdles when it comes to applying for a loan? What are the preparations before you apply for a loan? And we're going to be looking at other types of financing, such as, have you thought about investments? Or looking for investors? We will also look at what are the required documents that you need to have when thinking about financing. What is the loan? What is the turnaround time for accessing loans after you've completed the application process? And how did the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, how did that change the way we do banking and how people access business loans and finance? How does the online marketplace, or how did the online marketplace, how does that, in accessing financing, how does that affect privacy and security? And of course, what are the places we can go to access and secure loans and investments? Why is a business plan so important? How do you work with businesses? How do you work with businesses to help them qualify for a loan? How do lenders or lending institutions, how do they work with businesses, such as SBA loans, or Lendio? And if you're a startup, what do you need? What's the first thing you do when you have a business idea? And how do you get a business credit card? Or develop business reputation? How do you get financing for a franchise? Does it matter what type of company, LLC or C Corp? What are the lending rates for SBA financing? And is a down payment required? What do lenders like to see? And what is the difference between business loans and personal loans? And why would someone want to walk into a bank instead of using an online marketplace to access financing? Those are some of the questions we will consider in this particular podcast episode today. I'm telling you, we have some of the folks at Lendio who will help us to distill and to explore some of these answers that we met with. We had a meeting and a conference and did a presentation with several business owners, and we discussed many of these issues and more. And just so you know, as it relates to what's the first thing you do when you have a business idea, you develop a presence. We will talk about that in this episode of the Neoliberal Round podcast. It is deep. It is exciting. And just so you know, this episode of the Neoliberal Round podcast, is brought to you by our sponsors, who I would like to give a shout out to. We're talking about Advanced Property Analysis, your real estate investing decisions made simple with this calculator, customizable and easy to use report generator, $5 for 30 days. And of course, you can access them by contacting https / advanced property analysis .7eer.net/5bgwxo. And of course, also Alaska Airlines. Alaska Airlines frequent flyer program partners with points to sell mileage plan mileage to its members, whether they need more to book an award, flight, or are stocking up for the future. Frequent bonus discount offers add incentive to buy miles. Contact them today at alaska.ggco.net/nkjw62. And of course, Hilton Honors Rewards. The Hilton Honors program partners with points to sell honors points to its members, whether they need more to book a hotel or are stocking up for future trips. You may contact them today at hilton.ijrn.net/dvmyjg. And of course, Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines frequent flight program partners with points to sell rapid rewards points to its members, whether they need more to book an award flight or are stocking up for future trips. You can contact them at swa.eyjo.net/2rezd7. And of course, IHG Rewards Club. IHG Rewards Club program partners with points to sell IHG reward points to its members. Contact them today at ihg.hmxg.net/2rebkm. And of course, Qatar Airways Privilege Club partners with points to sell mileage plus miles to its members, whether they need more to book an award flight or are stocking up for future trips. You can contact them today at qatarpts.pxf.io/kegakv. And then there is Club and Sticks. They share a lot in common with our customers. Okay? clubandsticks.com. You can contact them today at clubsandsticks.7eer.net/lp1aa3. And finally, Belkin USA. Belkin USA is the Best of CES 2022 award winner. And of course, they are the #1 selling third party of MagSafe chargers. Belkin USA. You can contact them at belkin.evyy.net/rnyk4d. We thank our sponsors. And of course, the ANTS Business Solutions, our partners, where you can access domains, web management, or if you need IT and hosting solutions, contact ANTS Business Solutions today. We are the Neoliberal Corporation, serving the world today to solve tomorrow's challenges. We'll be right back after these messages. Good afternoon. I am Ronaldo McKenzie, and welcome to another episode of the Neoliberal Round podcast. And the Neoliberal Round podcast is about providing information. The Neoliberal Round is a part of the Neoliberal Corporation, and we're about serving the world today to solve tomorrow's challenges. And we are about communication. And communicating, we have oftentimes said, is to make popular. Communication is to make popular what was the monopoly. And we are a grassroots organization that's about providing information. That's about dissecting the challenges in society, looking at the issues of power. And the interview that I had with 2024 presidential candidate John Castro was quite revealing. It was very informative, and we learned a lot because we have an organization and we're building. It hasn't been easy. We've come under tremendous attack, spyware, malware, and we just recently learned that not just Russia and China, but also the American government is also involved in spying on their citizens. And there are persons who are telling you to buy VPN and all of that, but the hackers and the people who can hack your computers and your devices can easily turn off your VPN and go on your systems. We've been having tremendous issues, and we're going to have a program just that's dedicated just to that, talking to American people, talking to the world, letting the world know what is going on in society. I wrote an article some time ago that says only some people shouldn't be rich, and we talk about this anti-monopoly law and anti-trust laws, and one of the things that Mr. Castro said was that we need to enforce those laws. But there are those persons who are gatekeepers, who are protecting wealth, who are protecting the competition, who are trying to kill the competition when capitalism is about competition. But we're about information, and today we are learning so much about businesses and so on. As we try to resolve some of our problems, we share the issues with you. So there are many persons who want to know, how do we access small business investment? One of the things that when you start a business, and we started a business, we got off on the wrong footing, but we are learning where we went wrong and how to correct that. Because I said to you, the Neoliberal Corporation is a news commentary, think tank, social media, independent publishing company that provide a host of educational and leadership and self-help resources. And currently we are ranked number 90 some time ago in terms of podcasts in Canada, and we're at 248 in terms of news commentary. But I was at a conference with a group of business people at Lendio, and they shared with us, and we discussed, how do we access small business? Especially and one of the things I discussed with Mr. Castro was that the people in the communities, as much as we talk about community development and providing funding for mamas and papa stores in communities, I said to Mr. Castro, based on anthropological research, the investments, they're not reaching people in the community. And they are having to deal with several issues, spyware, hackers, and so on. And we talk about having the need for a digital force in this country. I've been meeting with several different small business owners and individuals, bloggers and writers and journalists and small business in communities, and they have problems accessing funding. And I actually recently tweeted something last night or early this morning about Plaid. Plaid is an app that allows banks and financial institutions to connect your banking institution as a way to verify you. But what we're happening is that what's happening in communities, a lot of people don't have banks and financial institutions that don't use Plaid. And I remember recently I applied for a business loan, and I was told that I won't get the loan because I cannot access the loan. I was given a loan, but I couldn't access the loan because I don't have a bank that uses Plaid or compatible with Plaid. That is one of the ways, that is one of the strategies, or one of the reasons why funding is not reaching people in communities and so on, because they create we have the funds, but then they create strategies and systems that bar you from accessing those funds, because if you don't have a bank or a financial institution that uses Plaid, you cannot get access to the funds. That is what's going on in society. How society makes it difficult to access things. And who are the people who normally use certain minor banks that does not use Plaid? Majority of the people who need the money, who need the financing in communities and so on. So the issue of development is very important. So this episode, I am sharing with you what I have learned so that it will help you. How do you, when you start a small business, how do you get funding? And one of the things that I would like to share with you, ensure that you get a Duns and Bradstreet account. A Duns and Bradstreet account. Just as though you have Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, there's also Duns and Bradstreet. So you create a company profile with them and so on. And another thing that I'm going to tell you is that ensure that you have a bank that uses Plaid. If you have a small business and you are needing financing, and you will need financing, I'm going to tell you this today. Ensure that you get a bank account that uses Plaid. Because if you don't have an account that uses Plaid, then that's tantamount to being denied the loan. That's what's happening. Plaid, P-L-A-I-D. Big banking institutions use those. And those persons who have those kinds of banks and who are approved by only those banks can get access. But the people who really need it will not get access because, as I said again, they have banking and financial institutions that don't use Plaid. Only Capital One uses Plaid. And so Capital One is not as difficult as the other banks, PNC and so on and so forth. But Capital One, probably you might have a better chance opening an account with Capital One. The only thing is, Capital One is not everywhere. Capital One is not in terms of locations. They're not everywhere. They're in certain places. So those are some of the things that we want to. But today I will share with you some valuable information. How do we access loans or finance? We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to the Neoliberal Round podcast. We're talking about how to access small business financing. And the first question is, what are the types or different types of business loans or business loan options? Again, what are the different types of small business or loan options that are available to small business owners? That's the first question.
If you've ever received business financing before, you know that there are so many different types of loan options. Anything from SBA loans all the way down to business credit cards, and everything in between, right? Again, in previous weeks, we talked a little bit about kind of setting that up and how to prepare yourself. But this is going to be a little bit more in depth of, hey, what are the different types of lending options? Again, SBA loans, short-term loans, lines of credit, startup loans, equipment loans, cash advances, commercial mortgages, accounts receivable, business acquisition loans, and business credit cards. Now, each one of these different types of loans actually is different in terms of underwriting, in terms of time it takes to apply for this type of funding, documents that you're going to need. There's so many different facets to what the application process looks like. I'll give you a couple examples. SBA loans and commercial mortgages. Those are typically loans that take a little bit longer to process, right? Those are loans that require a lot of documentation, financials, tax returns, profitability, profit and loss, so many different things to be able to go through that. Business credit cards. A lot of times new businesses can receive business credit cards, something that a lot of individuals don't know. Equipment financing. 99% of the time, you're actually going to need an invoice for equipment financing. Startup loans, probably one of the hardest, types of loans to qualify for or to apply for. A lot of lenders will look at kind of what you've done in the past personally and see, hey, what is this individual going to do with their business moving forward? So that's a couple.
Thank you. Okay, second question is, What do lenders look out for when we talk about small business financing? What do lenders look out for when we talk about small business financing?
What do lenders look for? This is probably one of the questions I get the most, actually. Now, although these are the three main factors, there's actually so many different things that our lenders look for when we talk about business financing. We could go all the way down to background checks, personal credit scores, where you laid on a payment back in 2009. Those are all things that lenders are going to take into account. But again, the three main things that we look at are time of business, credit score, as well as revenue. I'm going to go through these individually here over the next couple of slides. We'll talk about these in depth. So first of all, time in business. Time in business is actually a really cool stat. There's some stats floating around that this may not be the most accurate stat, but from the last one that I've heard, about 50% of businesses are out of business within the first 5 years. Now that's not I don't want to call that a warranted stat, but it is a stat that I've read quite a few times. So for lenders that are giving out lots of money to businesses that have been in business less than 5 years, it's a very high risk industry, right? So typically when we talk about businesses that don't have a lot of time in business, it comes with a little bit riskier terms when we talk about lending. Now lenders do love to see 2+ years time in business. That's kind of the criteria where we start out. Now obviously they can go lower than that, they can't go higher than that, but that's kind of the minimum requirement. Is they love to see 2+ years of business. Does that mean you can't get a loan if you have less than 2 years? Absolutely not. There are definitely options for you if you have less than 2 years time of business. Now, if you don't meet that time of business requirement, here are a couple of the options for you. There are business term loans. Those include some of short-term financing options. There are lines of credit as well. Lines of credit is kind of a revolving line that you can use and pay back as you please. And then business credit cards, which kind of the same thing, but you use it as a card and a little bit higher interest rates. The second thing that lenders love to look at is credit score. Now, this is probably the main question I get the most is, hey, why are lenders looking at my personal credit score if I'm applying for that business? And it's a great question. It really is. Let's talk about business credit score a little bit first. It's actually a measurement used by our lenders to say, hey, how healthy is, separate from you personally, how healthy is your business? Now, those credit scores range a little bit different than personal credit scores. They go anywhere from 0 to 100. That's the score rating that you'll receive. Anything above a 75 is an excellent rating in the eyes of lenders. But they all will take issue, or they will take an issue if there's a score under 50. Now, typically, if it's under 50, that means that something's happened, there are late payments, there's something going on, or it's just such a new business, there's not a lot of history built up. Now, personal credit score. Again, let me step back real quick.
Yes, and that's what I wanted to ask you about. Personal credit score as against business credit score. And several people in business and small business people probably, and many persons are unaware of the difference between business credit score and a personal credit score. So do we need, if we are in business, do we need a business credit score? And what is the important, why are we asked to also provide our personal social security information?
Business credit score is something that lenders don't use as much. Surprisingly enough, a lot of businesses don't have a business credit score.
Really?
Now, when we talk about personal credit score, the biggest reason why lenders like to use personal credit scores is because it's actually a tale of what the business owner has done, right? When we talk about mortgages, auto loans, personal loans, student loans, those are all things that are based on you as an individual, right? And that's going to stay with you for the rest of your life. But a business loan, you as the individual are taking that risk to start your business, but at any point in time, your business could close, or it could go through, again, as we saw through the pandemic, a lot of businesses struggled there. So that's why they're going to take a look at personal credit score a little bit more, is it's telling to, hey, what is this business owner going to do based on their previous history? Now, for those of you that don't know, personal credit scores can range anywhere from 300 to 850. Now, lenders will look at this anywhere. I mean, obviously, if we're sitting in the 300 range, that's probably something we need to work on. Lenders like to see as high as possible. Now, there are lenders that will do, call it alternative type financing for those that have lower credit scores. So again, if you have somewhere in the 300 to 600 range, there are still options for you. I want to make sure that that's clear, is that there are plenty of options. They just, again, the terms that I'll talk about a little bit later are going to be different than somebody with different credit scores, right? Let's go to the next slide. The last thing that we're going to look at is revenue. Revenue is, again, just as important as the other two facets of this, but let me give you a quick example. We've had a couple borrowers at Lendio come in and say, hey, I'd like a $5 million loan. Totally understandable. Let's see what you do on a monthly or yearly basis. And when we look at a yearly annual revenue aspect, they're doing anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. So again, when we talk about basic math, sometimes that doesn't add up, right? So when we talk about revenue and the amount of revenue that will allow you to secure a loan, a lot of different things are going to go into it, but healthy revenue is always good to see. When we talk about year-over-year growth as well, it's always healthy for businesses to have that year-over-year growth or month-over-month growth. So lenders and banks can look and say, hey, this business or individual is going in the right direction. It is a major requirement. The average minimum annual revenue criteria is typically around $50,000. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to have exactly $50,000 or way above that, but that's typically what lenders like to see, is above $50,000.
$50,000. Again, in most cases, you're saying demonstrating revenue is a major requirement when it comes to small business lending. And you're saying that the average minimum annual revenue criteria is around $50,000. But however, just bear in mind that the lenders will lend, I'm being told, but they like to see that. But the people who in communities who need money, who small businessmen and so on, they don't have a $50,000, especially if you're starting up capital, right? So what are the options and so on?
Let's ask another question here. For those of you that have applied for financing before, now this could be personal as well as business, what do you feel is the biggest hurdle when it comes to applying for a loan?
So the next question is, what do we feel is the biggest hurdle when it comes to applying for a loan? We already know revenue and credit score. And actually, there are several persons who participated in this particular discussion, and we want to hear what they have to say.
We'd love to hear a couple answers here. What do you feel is the biggest hurdle when it comes to applying for a loan? Is it the documents needed? Is it the time needed to funding? Possibly could be rates, could be terms, payment structure. What do you feel is the biggest hurdle when it comes to applying for a loan? As I've applied for personal loans in the past, I feel like one of the trickiest thing is collecting all my documents. For those of you who've gone through, let's move away from business, but even personal financing, mortgages, I mean, there's a lot of documents required for a mortgage. And we're talking tax returns. They want to see the birth certificate of your firstborn child at this point, right? It's a lot that's needed. It's a lot here, same thing, a lot of responses, documents, documentation, revenue, student loans. Definitely think these are some good answers. Finding a good term and low interest, yeah, absolutely. Paperwork, time of business, documentation. These are all great answers. I couldn't agree more. Documentation for me is what I feel like has been the biggest struggle. Is I don't have necessarily, and maybe don't tell my accountant this, but I don't have all my ducks in a row when it comes to having all my documents labeled and put in a nice, safe place. It's waterproof and whatnot, but we're trying to get there. Let's go to the next slide. Let's talk about preparation before you apply. It's a good idea to have a detailed use of funds before applying. This is going to help lenders get a picture of what you're trying to accomplish. Now, a lot of businesses that come to us think, I need to have every single one of my ducks in a row. I need to have my business plan. I need to have all my financials, buttoned up, dot my T's, cross my I's. And in reality, it's not always the case. It doesn't have to be everything is perfect, everything is in a row. Right? Like I mentioned, not all my ducks in a row when it comes to financial documents. Now, there are individuals that are ideally supposed to help you through this process. Depending on how you apply or what you're looking to do, there are plenty of individuals that can help you through this process. The biggest thing that I would say and I would recommend, as somebody who's been in the financial industry for a couple of years, it's a really good idea to break down that use of funds. So there's 3 great points here. Identify how much funding you'll need to execute the plan. Determine a timeline for when you're going to need the money, immediate versus over time, and pinpointing the purpose of your intended funding. Let's go over these just really quick. When we talk about identifying how much funding you're going to need, that could be anywhere from what I need right this second to what I need in 6 months. You want to have a breakdown of, I'm going to need $5,000 for my marketing costs today, whereas next week I'm going to need another $10,000 for my employees. It's really important to have that breakdown so that in a couple of months when the funding runs out or after you spend everything, you're not asking, hey, I need more money. Where's more money? I don't have access to this. So identify how much funding you'll need to execute the plan. Determining a timeline for when you're going to need the money. Timelines are very, very important. Again, as I mentioned, this week I need X amount of money for marketing, and next week I need X amount for my employees or for inventory. At what point are you going to need this financing, and how long are you going to take to pay it back, right? Your marketing costs might be a quicker turnaround than, say, your employees in terms of financing, right? So how quickly do you plan to pay that funding back as well through the timeline? And then third, the purpose of your intended funding. Kind of the same thing as well as mixing timeline and funding together, or identifying together. But what are you going to do with these funds, right? What's your plan to make the ROI with these funds? If I take $5,000 and inject it into or call it $50,000 and inject it into my business for marketing, how much do I plan to make in return on that money? It's very important to know how much I'm going to make, because that will determine your interest costs or how you're going to plan that interest cost, or the terms of your loan, or the frequency of your payments. So much depends on how that's going to work. So make sure that you have those 3 things down at least before you apply. Not saying you don't need a business plan or that you don't need your financials. Those are very important to have, but these are probably the 3 biggest points we can talk about preparing for you.
And one of the things that is important as you talk about preparing before you apply, when you do loans are a bit different from investments. And just so you know, you guys you can go to sba.gov to access a host of documents, and they also have a business plan template that is fillable. You can fill it in. If you want a copy of that, we have a copy of it. We can share that with you as well. But if there's 2 revenue stream or income, not revenue stream. There are several ways one can access capital. I'm learning. One, of course, you can access through loans, through the SBA loans and so on and so forth, but also, of course, through your family and friends, but also investors, looking for investors. And just so you know, if you go to the SBA.gov website, they provide you with a whole, I think I saw over 294 investors with contact information and email and so on. So once you have completed your business plan, all you would need to do then is now reach out to these people. You 294 people plus other people who are not listed. But I'm going to tell you, one of the way what we went wrong with the Neoliberal Corporation is that we started but did not explore the issue of investment and the need for a 34-page business plan, and we just completed, or in the process of completing that 34-page business plan, and then we're getting ready to approach investors. Of course, our goal here at the Neoliberal is to reach 10 million people over 2 years, and we constantly put up academic materials and various resources and information so that others can access, and we also want to dissect and look at power. We're at a very interesting position, because as we learn, we share, because we believe in adding value to people, adding value to society, to people in communities who need investment, who need to manage their lives while they get an education. We've also written an article about that on the neoliberal.com or on LSEMcKenzie.com or one of our various feeds. But we have a staple of information here, but part of the problem is you also may benefit from investment and also having an advisor. As I peruse the business plan document, you need a business plan. Not only should you also explore getting investors, but also getting a loan, but getting investors, and also ensure that you have to start by writing a business plan. And the business plan is almost like a dissertation, so to speak, or a thesis. But the business plan documents that we are using is actually 34 pages, and it involved a lot of thinking. And you have to ensure that you are realistic. And not only should you be realistic, but there have to be data that support your vision and your goals and so on and so forth. But this is important. So before you apply for a loan, it's a good idea to have a detailed use of funds before applying. What will I use the funds for? And this will help your lender get a picture of what, but not just the lender, but the investor, if you're going the investment route. Okay, so that is important. But let us continue. We want to know more, and there might be other questions that other participants have, and we're gonna take those questions in the chat. Of course, this is a presentation on how to access small business financing, and it is a presentation that we are conducting with several small business owners, and it is done via Zoom, and we will continue with the discussions. Is there any there are more questions that we want to consider?
Right, next slide. Documents to have on hand. Now this is a question, again, we get so often. This is going to vary based on the lender or the bank that you're working with. However, these are the 5 documents that I would say to have on hand. A couple of these might be optional depending on the type of financing that you are looking for. Business bank statements is a really important one. For those of you who maybe run a sole proprietorship and kind of run things through your personal statements, I'm not an accountant, I can't give financial advice or anything like that, but I would say it's important to have a business bank account. Business bank accounts will allow you to kind of separate the use of funds and the funds in general that you have coming in to make sure that everything is run separately through your business. And at least 3 months of those. We love to see, the more the better. When we talk about lenders, love seeing more financial documents, but at least 3 months of bank statements so that lenders can have an idea of where you're trending. Second and third, kind of similar, voided check and driver's license. That's really just for verification purposes. The voided check is going to help you or help lenders identify, hey, does this bank account match what the business owner is actually using for their bank account? And then driver's license will just verify that you are an active citizen in the United States. Fourth, business license or proof of ownership / registrations. Your proof of ownership is typically something found on a tax return. So that could be any form of tax return as well. A lot of times it's in the form of a K-1, or it just shows that you're the sole owner. As well, the business license a lot of times has you as the owner on there. A lot of times you'll see business licenses hanging up in shops or bakeries that are required to have business licenses. But in any way, shape, or form, I recommend having some sort of proof of ownership for your business. And then lastly, invoices. Invoices can come in the form of equipment invoices. They could come in what's called purchase order financing invoices. There's a couple different types of invoices that you're able to have. But especially when we talk about equipment financing, invoices are definitely something that you want to have, or at least gain access to from the individuals that you're working with. So those 5 things, make sure you have those documents on hand. There are obviously more documents that you can have. Again, financials, tax returns. There's so many different documents that businesses can have these days. So the more the better is what I would say, but these are 5 documents that you need to have. Next slide. Loan application time. Again, one of my favorite questions.
And just before you get into the loan application, I'm sorry here for cutting in terms of loan. So we just finished talking about business documents, what you would need in terms of a business document. So of course we have to be very organized. Organization is very important, with irrespective of the business that we need. If you have a serious business and you feel confident about your business, then of course you want to ensure that you're properly organized, and that you have the necessary paperwork and documents. Just so you know, and there are some banks that will provide you with voided. Some people have a problem getting voided checks, but sometimes if you have online banking and so on, it automatically provides you with some of those, with the voided check. I think, or you can get a voided check from one of your banks and so on and so forth. But the next information is the loan application time, and sometimes I believe you can, the SBA or the PPP provides, or the SBA program provides, the turnaround time is very quick, it's very fast, but there are several things to consider when we're thinking about the loan application time. In terms of, that is why it is important for us to have a business plan, so that would need, so, and a business plan would include some kind of time frame of your business activity. So therefore the loan application time would you get that information, so you'll have an idea of that when you apply. So we're talking about one of the things that we have to consider. You have to consider in-person banking, you have to consider online marketplace, and you have to consider the SBA, small business application loans. So those are three things that one will explore, depending on which of these mediums one uses to apply for a loan. It will determine the length of the turnaround time. But we are talking about loans, but we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket. Not only are we looking at loans, but also we should look at investments. And sometimes the investment application time will take time, and what takes time is the paperwork really that takes time. It's the paperwork that really takes time. But there are several banks and financial institutions and lenders that you can approach, or so for example Lendio, and they might provide, and the turnaround time is quick. Giggle turnaround time is quick there. But what are some of the things that we can consider here? What are some of the things that other stuff that we can consider that we have not raised?
And I'm actually going to jump into, I hope I can go back on this. I want to make sure that I can't, perfect. Loan application time. There are three typical types of, call it, I don't call them marketplaces, but places you can find or apply for loans. Online marketplaces, in-person banking, and the SBA. The SBA as well is typically run through in-person banks or online marketplaces, but we will call it a separate for all intents and purposes. Online marketplaces, similar to Lendio, I know there's others out there, are locations, businesses that will take an application online as well as documents online and look for the best option for your business. The reason why I love a marketplace is it's the same thing as going to Walmart when you need a whole bunch of different things or you don't know exactly what you need. It's going to allow you to find the best option for you and your business. Marketplace applications typically take only about 10 to 15 minutes, and the entire loan process from start to finish, again, this is all dependent on the type of loan you go with, but can be completed in as little as 48 to 72 hours. Now as well, I've seen quicker than that, I've seen much longer than that. The process varies. Again, it's very dependent on business owners, their ability to get us documents or get their lenders documents, as well as the type of lending that they're looking to obtain for their business. Second is in-person banking. Approval and funding times are going to be a little bit lengthier with this one. Again, typically, it can take anywhere from 1 to 6 months. I want to reiterate, that's not to say that I haven't seen it sooner or longer than that. However, that's the typical process or the timeline for the process that it takes. Now, the SBA, this one's actually really interesting. A lot of individuals come to us, and this is kind of a fun fact, and say, hey, I want to work directly with the SBA. Most individuals don't know that the SBA isn't the actual bank that's giving out the money. They're only guaranteeing the funds. So that's why you'll see other banks, whether they call it online marketplaces or credit unions or even just big banks, will market that they do have SBA loans available. And that's because the SBA is the one backing the money. They're not the one actually giving out the funds. They're the ones who set the guidelines and underwriting and whatnot, but however, they're not actually dispersing out money. And those can take anywhere from 60 to 90 days. Again, sometimes longer. I've seen it shorter as well. We funded an SBA loan a couple weeks ago in about 8 days, which is the fastest I've ever seen it happen, but kind of a cool fact. And you can see over here, different types of business financing, how long they take, merchant cash advances, lines of credit, all the way down to commercial mortgages. Towards the top, you'll see the ones that take a little bit less time, and towards the bottom, the ones that will take a longer amount of time to get. Let's go to the next one. How did PPP change traditional lending? This is one of my favorite questions that we have on the slide, actually. PPP, for those that don't know, stands for Payroll Protection Program. I hope most individuals on this call know that because it was a program during the pandemic a couple years ago. I think we're already 2 years out of the pandemic, or a year, back in 2020, which is crazy. But it was a program that the government offered back in 2020 when businesses shut down, the world shut down, to give out money to help businesses that were struggling during that time. Now, it was as well forgivable money, meaning that you were able to say, hey, I use the money for XYZ for my business, and the government could come back and say, okay, that works. You don't have to pay the loan back at all, which was a very, very cool thing the government decided to do, and a lot of businesses were able to survive the pandemic from that. Now, one of the biggest ways that it did change the lending industry was the rise of fintechs, which is financial technology. During COVID, we had hundreds of thousands of individuals that were trying to apply for this PPP loan at one time. Right? The floodgates opened, and all of a sudden we have hundreds of thousands of people that want money now to save their business, to save their employees, to save their families. And as an online marketplace at Lendio and other individuals and other businesses wanted to help as many people as possible. But there was simply no way to do it with that many, call it manual forms that had to be filled out and signed or submitted or sent or copied. I don't even have a printer, right? Most people don't have a printer or copier. So it was hard to be able to send over all these documents for a lot of individuals. So that rise of fintech allowed us to step in and say, hey, we want to do all of this online. We want to take applications online. We want to receive documents online to be able to help you move through this process faster. And that was something that never really happened before. It was a very big change in our business as a fintech space to come in and establish trust with individuals and say, hey, I don't necessarily trust you with my documents, but I don't have any other options at this point because I need a PPP loan and I need money now. Now, again, people went to their local banks during this time because they trusted them. Rightfully so, I get it. And online lending didn't have that same trust. And we feel very strongly, especially at Lendio, the PPP really did change that. It changed the way that our business owners see how they want to apply for loans in the long run, moving forward. One of my favorite questions, again, it was very cool to be a part of that PPP process and see how much it changed and how online marketplaces and online applications really did speed up so much of the process of what it is that we do for business lending. All right.
But before, and I apologize about that here, as we talk about the issue of how did PPP change traditional lending, the Paycheck Protection Program is very important. And with the issue of the rise of financial technology, and some time ago we talked about leveraging technology, and the Neoliberal Corporation uses technology. We leverage technology. Because we are challenged with a very limited marketing financing, and we don't have funding, and much of the funding comes from the owners' pockets and so on and so forth. We have tremendous difficulties, but what we're doing is we're leveraging technology, and the loan programs and banks and lenders have found that to be very useful, and also small business people who want funds found that to be useful. However, the issue of trust, establishing trust. People go to their local banks, you just said that, because they trust them. And online lending didn't have that same trust. But who are these people? When we talk about people people who are of a particular milieu, okay, people who, okay, but new individuals who are entering the market, or people who are the new competition, small business, people who are coming, who are starting businesses and so on. There is a problem here, because who do you trust when you don't have a history and you're not in business for a very long time? You know, who do you trust? Who do you go to? And in fact, there was an article that we did at theneoliberal.com some time ago that looks at the way in which young people are changing the way we look at work, in terms of how workplace, where people are now working virtually and remotely, and the whole work, it's affecting not just how people work, but how people access financing and so on and so forth. But the issue of privacy and security becomes a very important issue. Because what we have found here at the Neoliberal Corporation is there have been, and I've said that to you before, there have been quite a lot of breaches, identity issues, and so on and so forth. And we discovered that some persons purchase and access certain benefits utilizing some of the documents that we have. So that's another issue that you have to be mindful of, that some of the persons who are online asking you to apply for loans through them, they are persons who set up fake businesses and fake organizations online and fake application platforms. And just so you know, as I said to you earlier, we lost over 200 customers via our WooCommerce store. And what we came to realize is that a lot of third-party applications, that we use for our business, they are attached to certain countries, such as WooCommerce was once a third application that came from China, and there were some issues there. And I think at one time there was the WordPress and the other domains and that we use third-party applications from China, and we were affected by that. We lost hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, and we lost a lot of our customers, and we're still working through that. We have tremendous issues with that. So the issue of the rise of financial technology will also create another problem and another need, the need for a digital force. And I think Mr. Castro alluded to that, a digital force like the army, and it has to be independent, because we have a lot of issues with breaches and so on. And say, for example, we also use another platform called Blogger News or blogspot.com here at the Neoliberal. So it's a Google application, blog application, but that particular third-party application is developed by Russia, and our systems were being attacked. And several, so one of the things that, as you think about financing and so on and so forth, and as you think about abandoning your security and your privacy in order to access funds, in order to advance your business, you are left with the challenge of several other issues, okay, which is something that we can get into for another discussion. So as you think about the accessing financing and utilizing the technology that helps to speed up the turnaround time, you also have to consider the issue security and privacy and what's going on in the world today. And a lot of these programs, financial programs that you're utilizing in order to access some loans, some of them you have to sort through what's fake and what's not, and then you have to do your research. These applications that you're utilizing, who developed the application? Who developed the applications? Because what happened is that your passwords that you create to access these third-party applications could be the same password that you're utilizing to access many of these financial technology platforms, and so on and so forth. So that's one of the things that you have to consider as you think about financing your business and the paperwork that is needed. Okay, and putting and being organized and so on, you have to also think about the issue of privacy and security, which many small businesses and entrepreneurs are dealing with today. We've met with several different small business owners who are pulling their hair out because they have to be using a lot of their personal funding, but at the same time they're met with some kind of privacy issue and breaches. So that's some of the things that we have to do. I'm not sure what our government is doing in this regard, and the information, we are not provided sometimes with information in terms of who are these third-party applications, what countries, where were they developed. And over the past couple of months and years, you find that China and Russia have been working to be a part, working to access or to be a part of this third-party application system. Because I believe that one of the things is that there is some kind of sharing, and I made reference to this, the sharing between countries. China and Russia was doing a lot of work with many of these web application companies and so on, because according to Russia and China, if you want to do business with us, well, you have to give us more access, and that's what has happened, and that is creating problems for businesses. Okay, but let us. So those are some of the other things that we have to consider. But let us continue with the presentation. I apologize for cutting in here. Are there any considerations that we have? And I think there's other questions that is coming in the chat, and I know you have other slides that you want to share. So let's continue with the discussions here.
Last couple of slides here, and then we will get into our Q&A. Lendio's application. This is where I get to brag about Lendio, thankfully. Lendio's application is extremely seamless. 10 to 15 minutes complete. I've done it faster than that. No impact on your credit score. Over 10 different types of financing options available for you. And at Lendio, for those of you who don't know, we've actually facilitated over $12 billion in funding for small businesses. Now that's 12 billion with a B. Hopefully you guys can see the giant B.
12 billion.
A lot of that did come from us being able to help individuals during the pandemic, which was huge for our business and huge for being able to help out small businesses. It's amazing to hear some of the stories that we hear, even now coming out of the pandemic, and we're able to secure loans for individuals extremely fast, quick, easy process, harmless. It's really, really cool to see that. So again, our application at Lendio, very, very quick to complete. It will take 10 to 15 minutes. And again, the best part, there's no impact on your credit score. Something that takes very, very simple to do, no impact to what it is that you're looking to do. If you see on here at the bottom of the screen, there is a cool little, this is not a GIF, it's a little pic art, photo art of kind of how the process works for Lendio. You complete the application and submit the needed documents required. Now from there, you're actually going to get to meet with one of our funding managers. I actually at Lendio a couple years back was a funding manager. It was very cool to every single day be able to help multiple business owners a day complete their applications or review your tailored loan offers. And from there, you can see steps 3, 4, and 5. You get to review that tailored loan offer. You have the ability to select those loan offers if you do have more than one. And then the best part, number 5, is be able to secure that funding. I want to reiterate as well that at Lendio, there's over 75 different lenders that you're able to reach. That's the benefit of using a marketplace, is you're able to come to Lendio, say, I kind of think this is what I'm looking for my business. Can you help me? Or I have an idea of this is what I want, or this is how much money I want. And we can actually help you through that process. Very seamless, very smooth. Our funding managers are very skilled in doing this. And as well, it doesn't hurt you at all to apply. So what I would recommend is definitely if you're confused, lost, needing financing, business financing, take a second to apply. Again, it's not going to take long, and one of our funding managers will make sure to walk you through that entire process from start to finish, so we can help you get funded. That's what we do here every single day at Lendio, and we'd like to think, and we know that we're experts in what it is that we're doing. That is all of the slides right now, and what we're going to do is, if you haven't been able to drop in a question, we'd love for you to drop in a quick question if you have any around Lendio's application. what it is that you need, what it is you're looking for. Happy answering these questions. We're going to take them one by one. Oh, first question. Who is that cute guy presenting? Sorry.
Well, just so you know, I apologize for cutting in here. Um, we ended by saying that what is important in this regard is this: when you of course, there are many ways you can apply. There are many ways that you
What
can
it is that
apply.
you
I apologize. Lendio provides small access to small business financing. You can apply to Lendio. They have over 75 lenders, and I have actually utilized Lendio. Haven't been successful because of issues that we have become aware of, and we were able to meet with several people, and we know what we need to do. Okay, and this particular presentation and this particular discussion we're having here is very important. But just so you know, Lendio is not the only way you can access the SBA loan or any other lenders. Okay, there are a host of other applications or programs that you can utilize. And just so you know, you can also go to sba.gov. And let me tell you, go to sba.gov. Not only do you have access to lenders, to over 75 lenders, but you also have access to over 294 investors. Just so you know, over 294 investors. And once you complete your business plan, the next step now is for you to send that business plan to any of those 294. You could even walk into a bank with your business plan. But you have to ensure that your business is set up properly and your business plan provides actually a guide. So this is really good. Sorry for cutting you here. So this is very important. This is very, very important here. Anything else we need to consider? Anything else that we need to consider?
How do you work with businesses to help them qualify for a loan? That is a great question. Similar to how I responded in that last slide, it's a very simple process. If you're able to submit your application and submit your documents, from there we can actually tailor that experience to you. We can say, hey, what is it? Have a conversation with you. What is it that you're looking to accomplish with your financing? And let's talk about what it is that you are looking for. We'll actually walk you through that process step by step, which is really, really cool. Let's see. Let's go through the questions here.
Yeah, we have some questions coming up.
Deb Smith, great question. Why is startup loan the most complicated or hardest loan to achieve? Great question. Typically, this is because most individuals that come and apply for a startup loan, they've never had loans before in the past, or never had a business loan in the past, let me say. And so when the SBA or when banks are looking at these startup loans, they will go through an entire deep dive of what's your business plan, how much money are you going to make, exactly what are your margins, what are you as an individual, what have you done to show me that you can be a successful business in the future, right? Startups are basically gambling on you as the individual to make this business and turn it successful. Whereas businesses that have already been established, there's some sort of a track record there, right? They're able to come in and say, hey, you've done this for X amount of years or X amount of time, and we trust you will continue to do that for X amount of time in the future. So we're going to give you this much money, right? But again, startups is more of a gamble. The lenders are taking a chance on you being able to take that business and make it successful.
And just so you know, and that this is something that Mr. John Castro alluded to in the interview that we did some time ago, and I'm referencing Mr. Castro a lot in this particular presentation or in this conference that we're having here, because he's a businessman. He started with nothing, okay, and he started a company, Castro and Company, and from that he started AI Tax, artificial It's an AI tax software system, which is now valued at 180 million. He himself is valued at 20 million. And he said that he didn't start to make, he started netting up to about $1 million or so after 3 to 4 years, every year. So it takes time. So, and he says this, don't get bogged down with short-term losses. And some people who are in business, within the first 6 months, they quit. Within the first year, they quit. If you have a business that you believe in, and you spend time in it and you work it, then of course, you cannot allow the short-term challenges to affect you, especially if you have something great, positive, amazing. Like we here at the Neoliberal Corporation, we're a think tank, news commentary. We are very excited about it and we are constantly working hard. Do not allow short-term losses to get you down. Ensure that you have, he says, ensure that you have a long-term strategy and you keep pushing. You keep pushing. You keep developing ways to navigate. And there are times when you will feel demoralized. There are times when you're going to feel as though you want to give up. There are times I get that like that as well. I want to give up. But you keep pushing and you keep thinking about ways to navigate the challenges you have. You keep, comes what may. If you, and that's very important. That's very important. And here is he today, Mr. Castro. A multi-millionaire and a business and the AI tax is valued at $180 million. So you keep pushing, you keep planning, you keep organizing, you keep networking and utilize your networks. Keep talking about, somebody in, a friend of mine in Germantown, a young lady, sorry, not a young lady, she's older than I am, but she said that she's doing a fragrance business. She has candles, and I actually got a chance to just look at the product and smell it and so on and so forth. It's amazing. People in communities, they have a lot of talent, a lot of ideas. They lack the financing and so on and so forth. And even though we have all these bright ideas and so on, it is not easy when you are an entrepreneur. Just so you know, entrepreneurship is about taking risks. It's about gambling as well, okay? And it's about hard work. But one of the things I said to this lady who is about to go into business, I said the first thing you will need to do outside of financing, when you decide to start a business, is to develop a presence. Talk about what you're doing. Let people know about it. Start a blog. Start a page. Social media page, TikTok, Reddit, Telegram, Facebook, or if you already have a profile, start a page and attach it. Start talking to people, get the conversation going, blog about it, talk about it, and do research about what you're doing. What are the other anybody else is in that particular industry? What are they doing, and so forth. It's very important. And you expose yourself. You expose yourself to information that you need to get to the next level. So you talk about it. You establish a presence, and that's the first thing you need to do. And of course, you also want to become organized. So those are some of the things you have to take into consideration. Yes, you get loud about it. Create a lot of excitement about it. Be sensational about it. That's very important. Okay. So I know we're talking about how to access small business financing, but your success is also dependent on your market. You want to know, and the first market are your fans and your friends and your followers and people who, yes. So that's very important. So, but I know there are more questions, and I know there are other things that you might want to share with us here before we wrap up.
Good question. What if my startup business did not actually get off the ground? How can Lendio assist me with additional financing without the twists and turns?
Very good question.
Again, great question.
Yes.
We want to take and provide you what options are available to each and every business owner. Almost every single, we never have a business that comes to us and it's exactly the same as the last one or the next one. So we want to make sure that we can take this and say, hey, this is what's going to be best for your business in our opinion, and let's work together to make this as easy and as hassle-free as possible. So Again, application process, very simple, very smooth. How do I know the credit of my business? Another great question. Dun & Bradstreet as well as Experian are typically the two main
Yes. Dun & Bradstreet. Thank you for bringing that up again.
Or scores out there that report on that. So if you ever have questions or if you haven't registered with them, we typically say it's a good thing to register with Dun & Bradstreet so your business can actually be recognized.
And just so you know, as it relates to Dun & Bradstreet, you can Google, if wherever you are right now, you can Google that, Google that, you can create an account. If you have several businesses, you can create a profile for yourself and then add those businesses to your profile. Okay, it takes a couple days, about 30 days, up to 30 days for them to process your account. But as you think about financing and accessing small business financing, not only are you also thinking about personal credit score, but you also have to think about a business credit. And one of the ways you do so is by, again, opening up a Dun & Bradstreet account. So thank you for reiterating that. Very important.
And that's the same thing for how to obtain a business credit score. How would you proceed to obtain financing if you're opening a franchise? Another great question. A lot of that will come with startup options if you're able to qualify for those. What I do know is, or what I do understand is that some franchises have their own financing options or typical lenders that they like to use that will help with startup loans. But again, if you're looking for a startup loan, that's something that Lendio can help you facilitate as well. Really good question, does it matter to VC, venture capitalists, investors, if my company is an LLC versus C Corp? Great question. The basic answer would be no. Most of the time when we actually just look between the difference of those, it's going to be around ownership, right? Who owns the actual business as the C Corp versus the LLC, etc. But a lot of times it's really not going to make a difference in terms of financing of how you get that. There might just be some additional documents provided or needed depending on what type of business you are. Is the online rate higher than a longer application process? Really good question, Monica. This is actually, it's all dependent on the business, right? There are rates available anywhere from what Prime is right now, which I think was just raised to 6 3/4, all the way up to, there are astronomical rates out there as well. But it really all depends on your business. Just because it's an online application doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a higher rate. No. Again, marketplaces will allow you to see more and different options available for your business. Let's see, minimum time in business that is typically acceptable in general and or at Lendio. A lot of banks or more public banks are going to want a much longer time in business. At Lendio, we will go all the way down to 6 month time in business. We have lenders and banks that have the ability to fund as little as 6 months. So that is a great question. Let's do 3 more questions here.
And that's fine.
Let's see. Down payment required to buy a business. I like this question. That's a really good one. Startup loans or down payments, a lot of times that will actually be facilitated by who you're buying the business from. But startup loans usually require somewhere around 15 to 20% down to be able to secure that money. So it is a large upfront for startups or if you're purchasing a commercial building or whatnot. Let's see. Ooh, I like this one, Marissa. Marissa Banks, what do lenders like to see when it comes to things the money will be used for? Fantastic question. This really goes into, let's talk about just personal loans really quick. I know we're getting a little bit short on time, but personal loans, auto loans, mortgages, these are all loans that don't actually make you any money. Right? When you go get an auto loan, it's not to help you make a revenue stream. It's just because you're looking to finance something that you don't have the money for right up front. So when we look for business loans, one of the biggest things lenders want to see is how much money am I going to make from this money? Or how am I going to take this money and put it to use, right? So things like marketing expenses where you can inject more money into your business or into your marketing stream and get a bigger return out if you're able to invest more money up front. Or inventory, right? Inventory is another big one where it's, I need to buy X amount more of inventory because that will generate me X amount more in profit. Again, we will fund, Lendio will look at lenders and fund pretty much most anything, let's be clear, most anything that you're looking to fund from a purpose standpoint, right? Employee costs, payroll, equipment, even down to some of the very simple things like small pieces of equipment or supplies. But great question.
It is a great question, and I have to cut you here to just to remind, and for those of us who are listening via podcast, I just want to let you know. Please remember, when we talk about accessing small business financing, lenders, especially when we talk, there's a difference between accessing business loans as against accessing personal loans. Especially if you're in business, business want to know what am I going to get out of it. Sorry, lenders want to know that. So if you have, and that is why I said to you, it's very important to have a business plan, because if you're looking for funding to finance marketing, that is good. Business, that is, lenders and investors want to know that, because they want to know what do I stand to gain from that. So you are looking for a loan to put towards marketing expenses so that you can generate more business, thereby generating more revenues. So that is something that you have to clearly state, or find a way to clearly state. That's why it's very important, in addition to the app, because in some instance the application doesn't clearly state that. But when you have a business plan, you have opportunities to explain that and to show that. And even in your inventory, in your expense account, you also want to show a line item for that. Marketing, this is very good. Or inventory that you need to generate more income, more revenue, and so on and so forth. So those are some of the things you want to think about as you seek small business financing. Okay. Any more? We have about 2 more questions left. Do you want to tackle anything else?
Two more questions. Why would someone choose their walk-in bank over a marketplace like Lendio? German Arroyo, great question. This is something that goes back a little bit to PPP. Is a lot of individuals trust their banks more. And I understand that, right? It's like trusting a family member that has been dealing with your money for X amount of time. So a lot of individuals have this connection or feel like they need to go to their bank first. But in reality, bank loans, even if you bank with individuals for a long time, we've heard a lot of stories about individuals that just aren't able to obtain financing with their bank, even though they've had a relationship for X amount of years. Not to say that they won't, because it definitely has happened before. But again, using a marketplace and utilizing that marketplace allows you to see what different options are available for your business. It not only gives you just this one snippet of this is exactly what you qualify for, but gives you a vast majority of options to say, hey, this is where I want to go with my business, or this is where I think I should take my business. All right, one last question. We'll do a good one here.
I think I see one here.
Who do you call or where to get an application? Great place to finish off.
Yes.
Lendio.com. Lendio.com will take you right to where you need to go. You'll actually get to create your own account that will allow you to go back in at any point in time and finish your application, upload documents, see what potential approvals you have on the table. Lendio.com will get you there. Or if you search Lendio in Google, we're the first one that pops up. 4.9 stars with over 1,500 reviews now, or 1,200 reviews. We want to do right by our customers. We feel like we have the best marketplace in the nation, and our numbers as well prove that. So Lendio.com, that's where you go to apply. Again, it doesn't hurt you to apply. We want to be able to help all businesses that we absolutely can, and we believe do deserve funding.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Apollo. But thank you so much. That's all the time we have for today. This was a very good presentation, very good event. We want to thank the folks at Lendio, and we just want to thank all the small business owners that were able to participate in this event. It provided quite a lot of information. And just so you know, it's not just Lendio that you can access information like this. You can also go to SBA.gov, especially for the people who have in communities, small businesses. SBA.gov provides information about and resources for how to access financing and small business loans, and also not just loans but also investment. If you're looking for investors, they also provide you with tremendous amount of resources at sba.gov, so that you can access and you can follow that. And but thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Neoliberal Round podcast. And we thought that we had to share this with you. We thought that we had to open it up to everyone, because we are taught that the Neoliberal Corporation is about serving the world today to solve tomorrow's challenges. So we look at some of the issues, and we explore ways to speak to that, and we provide, and we said that communication is to make popular what was the monopoly. So there might be some of you who are not aware of how to access small business financing, and as we try to access, as we learn about community and the systems, and as we get involved in community and learn ways in which we can get ahead, we'll share that with you. Whatever information, whatever stories we have, we're not going to keep it for ourselves. Anything that have to do with adding value, anything that have to do with, I have oftentimes says, my life is about investing in others what has been invested in me. It's not just keeping information for myself, but in order for society to advance, okay, we want to also provide information at the community level, and because this information is available, but there, as I said to you, the target audience or some people are still not aware in communities, and so we hope that this particular platform will provide that. So we're looking at power, we're looking at strategy, but also we're looking at solutions, and solutions to some of the problems and challenges in society, and we're giving you any information that we have and we can provide to invest in your lives, or to make you better as an individual. We will make that available to you. Continue to share this program with your friends. Continue to send us feedback, and please donate to this show by going to Anchor, anchor.fm/the Neoliberal, TheNeoliberal/support. Again, Anchor.fm/the Neoliberal/support. And we have a breaking story that we are working on, which we will release that probably tomorrow. We mentioned that we would have had it available already, but we are still working the story, and as soon as we're able to edit it and so on, we will have a breaking news commentary story on the US elections, and voting behavior and patterns, and what we learn as it relates to the 2020 US elections and voting. And that's very important, as people, there are those who are considering, there are those who are arguing, saying that why is it that we're making it difficult for people to vote? But at the same time, you have to consider COVID provided an unusual situation. Absentee ballots, mail-in ballots. We've never had so many absentee and mail-in ballots before in our lives. Okay, but not only that, it provides an opportunity for the law and to be broken, because it doesn't, the kind of safety and security that you want to prevent when mail-in ballots and absentee ballots and that kind of voting poses a problem. And we have unearthed and uncovered some unusual malpractice, especially in the last election, okay, where there are people who report that they didn't vote, yet they still voted, okay, but because voting took place within the home, far from and far from the scrutiny of the outside world. And that poses a problem, because we are making decisions that will affect everybody's lives. So therefore, we have to think about these things and not think about it in a political way, as if, yes, there are those who say, why should we make it difficult for people to vote? But at the same time, why should we also not ensure that we protect our elections? That is important, okay? And I said to you before, and I said to you previously, that there are three. I didn't register to vote, but yet I have voter cards in 3 different states in this country. That's a problem. So when you have people running around talking about how some people are making it difficult for others to vote, and it is based on certain discriminatory practices, but we also have to consider what happened in the last election, and that these people have a point. Yes. So that's what we're about. We are about looking at the evidence. We're about looking at the story. We are not looking at it only from one side. We're looking at it from all angles. And that is why we are at a very unique position here at the Neoliberal Corporation and the Neoliberal Round, to provide you with news that is fair, news that is balanced, yes, news that is well researched, and not just providing news, but information that you will need to get to the next level and to get ahead in society. Thank you for listening to the Neoliberal Round podcast. Have a great day and take care. This is the Neoliberal Round, coming to you from the Neoliberal Corporation. I am Ronaldo McKenzie, your host and producer. The Neoliberal Corporation, serving the world today to solve tomorrow's challenges. And you can support us by going to anchor.fm/the neoliberal/support. Thank you for joining us. And next time, we will carry for you a breaking story. See you at the other end of this show. Walk good. The Neoliberal Round is brought to you by our partners, Alaska Airlines Frequent Flyer Program, Real Estate Wealth Builder Advanced Property Analysis, Hilton Honors Reward, Southwest Airlines Rewards, IHG Reward Club, Qatar Airways Privilege Club, Clubs and Sticks, and Belkin USA.